To order this July 21, 2021 land use hearing. Before we begin, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now is the time that has been set to consider an application by D. Ben Hensel to change the comprehensive plan designation of the subject property from medium-density residential to high-density residential, and to change the zoning designation of the subject property from medium-density residential, MR1, to high-density residential on property identified as tax lot 21E11 AA 01700, which is located in the neighborhood of Oak Grove and near Southeast Oak Grove Boulevard. Today, the hearing will proceed as follows. First, we will hear staff presentation from Senior Planner Melissa Ahrens, and she is here with us. The applicant will then have 15 minutes to present. Third, next, I will open the public hearing for testimony, beginning with public officials who will have 5 minutes each. 4, and then representatives from the recognized community planning organizations and agencies will have 3 minutes each. Finally, other people wishing to testify will have 3 minutes each. The board will then deliberate and either render a decision today or set a time to make a decision at a later date. Assisting us today is our clerk, Christina Terwilliger. Hello, Christina. Senior Planner Melissa Ahrens, and County Counsel Stephen Magcourt. Today we are holding this land use hearing in person as well as virtually. If you've joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting and you are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. The Zoom link and instruction to participate via Zoom are located at www.clackamas.us/meetings/BCC/land use. You will have the option of providing your comments to us live during the public comment portion of this meeting. Be sure to include your name and the area where you live. For those attending in person today, please fill out a card and give it to Christina, and you will be called to provide your testimony at the appropriate time. We will now begin the hearing with a legal statement from Stephen Magcourt, followed by the planning staff's presentation of their report and recommendation. Stephen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Now is the time set for a public hearing related to the previously identified comprehensive plan and zone change application. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, which means two important things for those participating in this hearing. First, all of the criteria that can be used in reaching a decision have been identified in the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the criteria identified in the staff report or other relevant criteria found in the comprehensive plan or other land use regulations that the person believes applies to this decision. Accordingly, anybody testifying is asked to please direct your testimony to a relevant approved criterion. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issues may preclude appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Once final, these decisions may be appealed to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. At this time, I will ask the Board of Commissioners to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. If anyone wishes to challenge the impartiality of any commissioner, please clearly indicate your intention to do so in any written or oral testimony you may provide. Are there any conflicts, bias, or conflicts that the board wishes to disclose?
None. None.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much, County Council. We will now have the staff presentation.
I'll wait for Christina to get the PowerPoint up before I start.
Let me work on the projector real quick also.
Thank you.
And it will show on the TV screens as well and on your.
Perfect, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and members of the public audience. We are here today to consider land use application Z0167-21-CP and Z0168-21-ZAP. Next slide, please. The subject applications are for a comprehensive plan amendment from medium-density residential designation to low-density residential designation, and a zone change from medium-density residential MR1 to high-density residential HDR. Next slide, please. The property is located at 14720 Southeast River Road and is approximately 0.48 acres. There are currently no structures on the property. Next slide, please. The subject land use applications were noticed to interested agencies, local governments, and property owners within 500 feet of the subject property, consistent with state law and section 1307 of the county's zoning and development ordinance. No formal comments were received. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation of approval is based on the approval criteria for a comprehensive plan amendment and a zone change as outlined above. Next slide, please. Specifically for a comprehensive plan amendment consistency findings, we look to the statewide planning goals and OARs, the county's comprehensive plan, and for this property, the Metro Urban Growth Management Functional Plan. The proposed comprehensive plan amendment was found consistent with all applicable statewide planning goals and OARs, as well as the Metro Functional Plan. Specific findings start on page 7 of the staff recommendation, which is number 4 in the board packet. Next slide, please. The subject comprehensive plan amendment was also found consistent with all applicable policies of the comprehensive plan. Specific consistency findings start on page 13 of the staff recommendation, also number 4 in the board packet. Next slide, please. Findings specific to land use policy 4.U that allows for a redesignation to HDR are also included in the staff recommendation. Next slide, please. As part of the Chapter 4 consistency findings, staff analyzed the proximity of the property to major shopping centers, employment concentrations, and major transit centers, as well as the street classification. The subject property is located within the Oak Grove neighborhood on a minor arterial road and is also close to the McLaughlin commercial corridor. Next slide, please. The subject property is outlined in blue above. And if you could click through with me, Christina. The McLaughlin corridor is in green above. Downtown Oak Grove is located a short distance to the west. And the trolley trail is located to the north. Staff found the proposed comprehensive plan amendment consistent with the criteria in policy 4.U due to its proximity to the features above. Oh, if you could go back, sorry.
There we go.
Thank you. Specific findings are located in the staff recommendation. Next slide, please. Regarding the zone change, staff found the proposed change from MR1 to HDR consistent with Zoning and Development Ordinance Section 1202.03 and the specific criteria summarized above. Next slide, please. A public hearing was held on June 28, 2021 for Planning Commission consideration of the application and the original staff recommendation. That recommendation with its findings on relevant approval criteria is in the board packet and available online for members of the public. At the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant gave a short presentation summarizing the proposal and stating that they had been coordinating with the Oak Grove Community Council CPO, Community Planning Organization, on the project. There were no public comments. The Planning Commission raised no significant issues and voted unanimously to recommend approval, as originally recommended by staff. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Melissa. I like that little map with the arrows pointing up. That was quite helpful.
Good.
The board likes interactive stuff. Keeps us on our toes. Thank you. Does any commissioners have any qualifying questions or comments for staff at this time? See none, we will now open the public comment portion of the hearing. The applicant will now have 15 minutes to present, and I don't see anyone. Is that correct?
He is online.
He is online. Sir, please introduce yourself and state what your address is. And you have up to 15 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ben Hensel, and my address is 2381 Southeast Juniper Drive, Milwaukee, Oregon, 97267. I live about a mile down the street, down River Road from the subject property. And I think that's important because I'm part of that community, and I'm trying to do a development that is consistent with the type of housing and the type of neighborhood that we live in. I'll be brief today. The subject property is adjacent to a business district, and I think the increased density will facilitate the businesses there. It's close to schools and walking distance to McLaughlin and the trolley trail. It's also serviced by TriMet bus line on River Road. And in terms of the development, my proposal really doesn't specify anything, but the increased zoning would allow up to 12 residential units on the property. So that it's not going to be overly dense. There's no height restriction, but practically speaking, we're not going to be able to build very tall there, nor would that fit in the neighborhood. Some questions came up about parking and stormwater management. Those issues will all be addressed in detail in the design review, which is kind of phase 2 of this. I think the other relevant thing I wanted to mention was I own the property immediately adjacent to the south. It's a residential triplex. I don't know that matters, but it's, I want that full disclosure. Aside from that, I think this is a nice development. It'll enhance the community, and I'm happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hensel. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicants at this time? Nope. Thank you, Mr. Hensel. We'll continue on with the public hearing portion of this. Are there any public officials who wish to testify? Christina? I don't see anyone in the room.
Oh, I do have a hand raised, just one.
Okay, who is that?
Joseph Edge, it says that he is the OGCC chair.
Could you say that again? Is that from the a CPO or an agency? CPO.
Okay,
The Oak Grove CPO.
I believe so.
Please bring him on.
Okay.
Please introduce yourself, state your name and residence for the record.
Hello, my name is Joseph Edge, and my residence is 14850 Southeast River Forest Drive in Oak Grove, 97267. I am the chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, the recognized community planning organization for the area. And Mr. Hensel had contacted us. He's actually been in contact with us regularly about his proposal, and so we've had a lot of time to interact with him on that. And when we were noticed, we were able to give a presentation about this particular application for this hearing today, or these two applications, to our members at our publicly noticed meeting on June 23rd. Mr. Hensel gave a presentation, as well as, I gave a presentation as well. And although we did not formally have a vote to submit formal comments, there were really just positive comments, positive feedback, and words of encouragement. It was really well received. You know, as Mr. Hensel mentioned, there were a couple questions about stormwater and parking that we know will be dealt with in a future review. And other than that, we have full support of Mr. Hensel's proposal today, and we would like to recommend that you approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Edge. Are there any questions by commissioners for Mr. Edge? Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Joseph. Paul Savas here. Just a question for you. Just for clarification, the group that meets on the land use is not the full membership of the Oak Grove CPO, but rather a subcommittee. Is that correct?
There's a subcommittee that reviews the applications and puts together presentations and then delivers those presentations to the full membership meetings.
Okay, and so how is that delivered?
We create a PowerPoint presentation where we show a few slides from the application the applicant submitted. We also pull together some of the key concerns or key issues that are relevant to the approval criteria. And so in particular, we highlighted the three relevant criteria from Chapter 4 of the comprehensive plan, and highlighted how the proximity to shopping districts, transit, and employment, is proximal to those. It's also proximal to existing high-density residential zone land just to the north, where the Rose Villa and Willamette View Manor exist. And it's also, there were no geological concerns, and the road classification also as a minor arterial meets the standards. So we were able to address for our members what the requirements were, and explain those, and ask for feedback.
Okay, and when that was presented to the full Oak Grove membership, what meeting was that? What month?
It was June 23rd.
June 23rd. Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other commissioners? Thank you, Joseph Edge, for your testimony today.
Thank you for having me.
We will now hear from members of the public about this issue. I don't see anyone in the room. Christina, anybody online?
No.
Okay, good. We will now close the public portion of today's hearing and begin deliberations. Any discussion, deliberations, or any motions anyone would like to make at this time? I will call for a motion on Z0167-21-CP and Z0168-21-ZAP.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader has moved the motion, and Commissioner Fisher has seconded that.
We got it.
Okay, let's see, I'm reading my script. Hang on, folks. We went through that
You
pretty
want
darn
to do a motion
fast.
for approval, right?
Yes, a motion
Yeah.
for approval. If there's no further discussion on this, Christina, I will call for a vote on the motion for approval.
Commissioner Schull?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Now that the applicants have been approved, I will direct staff to draft an order reflecting today's decision and include it on the agenda for this board's adoption at a future business meeting.
Chair?
Yes,
It's 5-0.
You meant 5-0, correct?
5-0, what did I say?
4-0.
I stand corrected, 5-0, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Is that all, Stephen? And this will come up when? We'll just set a date. Is it, when
We'll
we,
have a date certain for it. The staff will prepare a board order reflecting the decision today, and we'll have it at a future board business meeting.
good. And at that time, is it a public hearing or is it a consent agenda item? Wonderful, a consent agenda item. Well, this has been very nice. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff, for showing up. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.